What's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to do a little bit of detail painting and add some brass. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the TRX-4 Sport Budget Build-Off. If you're not familiar with what the Build-Off is, Matt from the Scale Builders Guild and myself have the Traxxas TRX-4 Sport unassembled kit versions, and we're upgrading them every week with $50. Now, if we don't spend the money, it carries over to the next, and so on and so forth. We've also had a handful of other little special weeks thrown in there, but this is week 9, which starts the second half of this budget build-off, which we're taking 16 weeks long. But this week, we're doing just a little bit of part slapping and some detail painting, which is definitely not my strong suit. And as far as technique on painting, my skill set is 0. The painting that we did this week is about as simple as it gets, and even then I screwed up. But what we did is we took and we painted the inside of the rear bed black, which we discussed last week when we did the mullet mod, as somebody referred to it as in the comments, where we took and trimmed off the rear expedition rack that was on this thing and kind of gave it a lower profile and lighter weight setup that you see here. And then the other thing that we did is we took and we painted the sport fender flares black, which you'll see is already done on this side. Now this kit, as well as even the ready to run sports that you find, those have stickers for the fender flares that you can put on right out of the box. And probably for me, that probably would have been a better idea as far as a cleaner look. But at the same time, paint does scratch and scuff off a little bit more realistic than a sticker. So doing a black painted fender flare is a pretty simple task to do, and it'll give you kind of a cool look that'll wear in a little bit better than a sticker will. So we'll run through the process that I took on the bed and fender flares really quick, just to show you how I accomplished it. To paint this bed section, I'm gonna remove this entire rack, and that also includes me having to remove the interior since I bolted it through the back section of this bed. So I actually didn't have to remove the interior, I could get my driver around it. So now I'm gonna take and mask off this rear section. The good thing is I don't have to be overly careful because we do have these bed rail caps that cover it. So I have a lot of wiggle room around this area. So we've got the bed area all masked off now. I don't have the entire body masked, and you really should do that. For me, I'm just going to try and be as careful as possible. And before I did this, I totally prepped this surface, and I'm not just going to paint over exactly as it was. But now I'm gonna go take some Tamiya PS5 and shoot over top of this, give it a nice black bed. So one nice heavy but even coat of black should do it for now. Of course, the paint is still totally wet. But at this point, you should all know that painting advice from me in general is a terrible idea. Not much to that, just a simple black bed, but it helps break this whole thing up. Now we still need to install the rear rack, but I'm gonna go ahead and tape off these fenders also and shoot all 4 of those with black. So for these rear fenders, I've put the tape on just roughly, kind of overlapping some of the arches as needed. And now I'm gonna go in with my X-Acto knife and just cut those arches in by hand, peel that section off, and hopefully that gives me a more consistent arch. So, got the rear fender flare taped off. We're gonna do the front one and then cover the body as best we can. So obviously, if you take as much time as I did on meticulous paint prep of the body before you paint and you do just a beautiful job of masking, as I obviously did as well, then you'll come out with a finished product as good as this one looks. In the end, it's good enough. I'm just trying to make it look a little bit better in pictures and video, and my main goal for this thing is performance. So let's get on to that side of the modification that we did this week as well. If you have a TRX-4 and you've owned any other type of trail truck like it, then you'll notice, of course, that they're much top heavier than their competitors, and you really have got to fight to try and get that weight down to make these things stack up against some of those. Now, the most common thing that people do is throw as much weight on the trucks as they can, down low or even not down low. This week, I am adding a little bit of weight. I'm trying to add as little weight to this truck as possible just for performance reasons. Adding things like brass bumper supports is a terrible idea. Don't do that. But what we're doing this week is we're going to throw on a set of aluminum portal knuckle covers and a set of bolt-on brass knuckle weights. Now, there is other options to that solution where you can just get like a whole brass outer cover if you want, which may in the long run save you some money in that case. I'm using a set from Traxxas, and they have a aluminum portal cover and a brass outer. There's pluses and minuses to having the two different material type selection here compared to just a single brass cover. This way we do get threads that go into aluminum rather than into brass, which may not hold threads as well. And the one nice thing about this is that the brass is only in the area around and below where the actual stub axle comes out. So it keeps our weight added as low as possible. You know, a full portal cover may add a little bit of weight, a little bit higher, but still in a pretty good spot in reality. But again, I'm trying to add as little weight to this truck as possible. For me, adding weight just means that I have to pull more weight up climbs. That's what I'm trying to avoid. But at the same time, trying to get that center of gravity just lower and lower every week. Installation of the brass and portal covers is very simple, and we're going to run through that quickly now. With the wheel remove, we need to remove the hexes by removing the hex pin. Then we need to remove the 2 screws from the front and the 6 screws from the back side of the portal. With all those screws removed, we can pull off that front cover as well as the stub shaft and gear. Slide that stub shaft and gear out from the back side, and then we need to remove the 2 bearings from the inside of this cover. Replace those bearings back into the new aluminum cover. Reinstall the gear into the cover. And lastly, put that front portal cover back in place. We're going to replace the 2 screws from the front side first just to hold everything in place. And then we need to replace the 6 screws on the back side of the portal cover. Since these are threading into aluminum, we're going to use a small amount of thread lock on each of them. Going to reinstall my hex, making sure to put the raised lip side in towards the portal, and reinstall the hex pin. And now we've got these knuckle weights that we're going to install. Again, these are a Traxxas brand, and they're 34 grams each. So we're going to add 68 total grams to the front of this truck. This weight slides over this portal cover, and it uses 3 new pieces of hardware to attach to that portal box. These pieces of hardware already have Loctite installed on them, so we don't need to add our own. These portal weights are made specifically for these portal covers, so you can't mix and match these. But of course there are other options that have either a portal weight option that fits on stock ones or a full portal cover with portal weight in one piece. With that installed on there, we're going to reinstall our wheel and double check that all of our clearances are good. Everything spins nice and freely in there. If you look closely in there, you can see that our stainless brake weight and the portal cover are probably within a 32nd of an inch of each other. They have almost an identical diameter, and the clearance between the two is just right on. So we're in good shape, everything clears, and we've got a nice forward weight bias. So again, that's about as simple of a part slapping situation as it gets. If you bought the kit version, you've already done basically that installation before. If you have an RTR even, it's only about a dozen pieces of hardware, and it's gonna go in and out just about as easy as any other modification you can do on this truck. Last week I did ask for suggestions on what modifications we should do next time. And I happened to add that in the same week as I did the giveaway on the voltmeters. And that was a bad idea because we had like almost 600 comments, and that made it almost impossible to try and go through and tally suggestions on what modifications should be. But speaking of that giveaway, there was a ton of people who entered, and I kind of felt bad only having just a small handful, so I went on Amazon and I bought a bunch more, and I'm just gonna give all of those away now instead. I used random.org, picked out all of the comment numbers, went through, counted them out, and selected all of the winners, and I'll put your name over on the side as well as in the description below. With those voltmeters, the bezel that I created is specific to the bomber interior, but I also have a generic one that I've installed in an axial deadbolt before, and this one just basically goes on any flat area of any truck. You could put it in the bed of a truck if you wanted, or just any flat surface you can find to install. So you guys who won, go to my website, which will be a link in the description below, and there's a contact form on my website. Go in there, give me the name as it appeared in your YouTube handle, and go in there and tell me if you want the bomber interior specific one or if you want a generic version. That'll make it more useful for you if you don't have this exact setup. So go over to my website, use the contact form, and get me your information. Make sure to include things like your name and address in there as well. The new voltmeters that I bought are actually a little bit smaller as well compared to the one that I had here, which I actually really like. So I am going to modify the files that I've got to be able to use both of those, and I'll make sure and put a link in the description below of this video to my generic voltmeter housing as well, in case you guys are looking to be able to install a voltmeter in some other type of vehicle that isn't specifically like the setup that I have here. So this week was a pretty straightforward and simple week, but as we come into the back half of the series, we've got some really tough decisions to start making. One of the biggest things is that I feel very limited by the TRX-4 chassis. As it sits right here, I'm about as low as I can get it to set. The front shocks are already running about 90% compressed, which isn't my preference normally. I like to have a little bit more up travel than that, but to try and get this thing at the ride height that I like, I have to set it there. But I need to either decide whether I plan to stick with this chassis and just work through all of the details that I possibly can to get this setup working as best as possible, or what you guys think about possibly doing a chassis swap. Chassis swaps can be pretty involved, and they can be limited unless you're looking at simple flat plate options, which I just am not a big fan of. But we may have to look at all of the options available before we make a decision on this vehicle. So that leads into this week's question, which is yes or no? Should we be looking into a possible chassis swap to try and get the most performance out of this truck as we can? Or do we just keep tweaking on the stock chassis to try and get it as close as we can to what our ultimate performance goal is? Throw a comment below in with your thoughts, and I'll also put a poll up in the corner in case you just want to click a button rather than giving your thoughts on this question. So let's hear what you guys think, because either way that we go, we've got a lot of planning to do to try and make everything fit in the budget and within those special weeks that we have. So mash those keyboards and give me some sort of response. But beyond that, that's all we've got for this week, guys. Thanks again for watching. We're 9 weeks into this thing already, and I already feel like it's been double that, but still a lot to go, still a lot to do, and hopefully in the end, let's hope that we've got a finished product that I'm happy to drive. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome rest of the week. Hit the like button if you enjoyed these videos. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.